Hello. I thought about how am I going to tell the story of Narc 2, which is the Narc that happened after I was, I don't know, like 29, 21, no, 29, 31, 32, and I decided, well, maybe the best thing to do is not to think about it and just tell as it happens. So I'm gonna try to tell the story of Narc 2, which happened when I was around 30 years old, and it really hurt me. This time she was able to do everything she needed to do. The difference between her and Narc 1 is that Narc 1, I got out of her life before she could have her way with me. But Narc 2 did everything she wanted, and she covertly controlled my thoughts, my opinions, my perceptions, and she really hurt me. I felt the whole thing that we feel when we are abused by a narcissist: confusion, lied to. I was abused and I didn't even know I was being abused. Became an emotional hostage, emotional slave. I was idealized, devalued and discarded by a person whom I loved. I was in love with this woman. Never thought that a person that I loved and who said loved me would be able to do such things. And that's the whole story that we hear when we see someone saying he or she was deceived by a sociopath. The other days I was not watching, I was painting the walls and the television was on, and one girl appeared and said, uh, the guy went to the restaurant and he said, "Oh, I forgot my wallet, would you pay for this dinner?" Then the girl paid. And another day they went out and he said, "Oh, I forgot my credit card, will you pay for the expenses of the night?" And she paid. And he conned her, and she said, "Oh, I liked him, I never thought he would do this to me because I liked him." And he deceived her. Clearly a sociopath or a psychopath, depending on if his psyche was ill or if he was made ill, or if he's a narcissist or if he was antisocial. Alright, this was 2007. I got into the master's course. I'm gonna say this, I don't know if that's the same name that it's given internationally to when you want to become a master of something. It's just a fancy name. So if you get a master's degree here in Brazil, that means that you can teach at universities. I I got the master's degree was in literary studies, so I could give classes about literature. I never wanted to become a teacher, just I liked the knowledge. Okay, and that's another story. And 2007, that's the first year. The master's course typically lasts 2 years. 2007, 2008 were the time that I did this course, and 2007 I met this girl, not particularly attracted, didn't find her particularly attractive at first. We didn't talk much during the classes, just in the break, during the breaks of the class, we would randomly talk a few words to each other and just realize we had something in common concerning preferences for art and movies. Basically in the gothic field, of books, movies, romantic field of books and movies and art, and movies that are very. That's a conclusion I reach right now. I even mentioned the movies Damage, Jeremy Irons, isn't it? And I mentioned the movie Bitter Moon. Emmanuel Seigneur is in this movie. And they are all about toxic relationships. I realize now. And she knew those movies, and I knew them too, and for some reason we talked about them. Just mentioned them. That was funny, huh? 2007, 2008. And because we didn't see each other much, I have no idea why we started. When did I give her my email? Who gave the email to whom? Why did I start writing to her? Why did she start writing to me? I don't remember. Maybe we just found each other interesting. And we started to exchange emails. But there were a lot of time between them. 2007, 2008 things were going a bit hard for me because of what I was writing the dissertation. And it's very time consuming. She was also in a period where she was writing her thesis. So the communication was, a month apart. And when I started to write my dissertation, it became very, I would write to her, and then 2 months later she would reply, and then 2 or 3 months later I would reply, but they were always emails that, when you have a connection with someone, you share emotional things, but nothing so deep, in the sense that oh, okay, maybe I'm lying here. Of course, since I knew her, I've always had the attraction. I said, oh, this is a dream, this girl is interesting. She's very attractive. Her way she writes, the way she speaks, and everything. And she would be good. She's one of my favorite friends. I knew that at that time, okay? But I said, nothing will ever happen between us because I I don't want a relationship right now. I'm not ready for a relationship. I don't have the patience. And I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to give the first step. So I thought to myself, she's good. I like her, but I'm not gonna search for it. In 2007, 2008, 2009, I finished my dissertation because I had to ask for an extension. It's very hard to write, as we all know here, I guess. In 2009, I finished it. 2010, I defended, and we are exchanging emails talking about art, movies, literature, poetry. To us, is very. I don't mean to say that as I'm talking about. We're talking about superior subjects. Okay, it's just a normal thing for people who study in the field of humanities. Nothing to it. Okay, it's just a field that we were. And I don't like the idea of the intellectual who feels superior. Okay, I can't stand people who try to show off that they are better or that they are more knowledgeable than the normal people. Normal. I mean, I hate people who are proud, people with pride. Okay, and if I have to talk in a formal setting, I talk with a formal accent, Portuguese here. But if I'm home or I'm talking to some old guys with people who came from the same place I came from, which are simple-minded, I am not afraid to talk my everyday language with an accent, a hillbilly accent and everything, okay? I don't care. That's not what interests me, trying to feel superior to anybody. I'm just interested in the things that make me feel good. Okay, music, books, stories, movies. That doesn't make anybody uh, better than anyone unless that person is using this knowledge to convey the impression that they are superior. And that's very evil, in my opinion. That has nothing to do with love for anything about art. In 2010, I defend my dissertation, become a master, and then I am allowed to go into the doctorship course. And in 2010, I passed the exam and I start to right away. Okay, I start studying to become a doctor in literary studies, which means that if I was a teacher at a university, I would make more money. But I was in it more because of the knowledge, and I would get a scholarship from the government that would allow me to keep studying. Okay, and by then, the woman who I didn't find particularly attractive became more attractive to my eyes. We would meet randomly at school, not studying in the same class anymore, because it's not usually the case, you know. You're part of the same program, or part of the same course, but depending on the discipline that you take, if the person doesn't take the same discipline, you're not studying together, but you see each other in the events and speeches. Okay, and by now she would dress very differently, very fancy clothes. I mean, she would dress in purple, not purple, I guess it's purple, huh? And she used to like study the theme of death in poetry. So she was a kind of gothic girl, but she wouldn't dress in black by now. She would just use clothes that were, and not the sex appeal too. She would use clothes, and in purple, which is a color associated with death, and not strong makeup. Okay, so I found that very interesting. She's not that side of her not being too much exaggerated, but it was different. Okay, she would be different, and it was fantastic to see a person like that in the middle of everyone, and being a romantic and liking that kind of way of dressing or being, her personality. And she became a special person to me, and I love to see her uh, during the events. And she even once called me to sit by her side, and I said, "Oh, that's great." And I sat by her side. We would make comments to each other during the speech. It was even a professor from Pennsylvania came here once, and we were watching him talk about a guy named, oh God, I guess I'm gonna forget about it. Walter Benjamin. I don't, I don't remember now the what Walter Benjamin talks about, and I never cared, because, you know, what does that have to do with literature? I want to know about literature, not about theoretical stuff. And by this time too, every time I would receive an email from this girl, I would feel happy, and I would be excited. And I mean that I'm not ashamed to say that I would be also physically excited every time I received an email from this girl. And the reason why I'm talking about it so openly is because it happens in the first stages of what is called an emotional affair. When you receive texts from a person, and when you feel more than happy to receive that text, but you actually have a physical, sexual excitement when you receive the text, read the text, and from that special person. And many married people, I read that they are very susceptible to having emotional affairs, because the communication starts to get more and more intimate. You start to share more and more about your ideas, your emotions, your life, your preferences, and you have things in common, the way of thinking, and it becomes an emotional connection even though you're not physically there. To the point that you don't even know why you're feeling excited. You just feel excited when you receive the text with the name of the person there. In 2010, 2011, 2012, things were getting more and more in our email communication, more and more intimate. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about emotional uh, proximity. Okay, if I use the word intimate, it can imply something sexual there, and I don't want to give that idea. It's just emotionally close we were, and by then I was feeling very tender feelings towards this girl, and feeling excited with her emails. It was a very real pleasure to read her emails and then to respond to her. And but I didn't know about emotional affair at the time. I just lived it, and I would even, in my mind, just give a nickname for her. When I used to receive an email from her, I used to tell myself internally, "Oh, my baby sent me an email." You know, we were even seeing each other physically, but our emotional, the emails that we've sent, the amount of tenderness that we exchanged toward each other with uh, compliments. We would exchange poems. She showed her poems. I would compliment her poetry, and I showed her a few poems. She would compliment me back, and we would compliment each other's ideas, and it starts to become very exciting in an emotional sense. And emotions come first. That's amazing. I cannot feel excited if there is no emotion involved. Maybe it might be one characteristic or trait of these romantic relationships with narcissists. Okay, so I reached the year 2012, and for the sake of organization of my ideas, uh, I'm gonna stop here, and I'm gonna call this video Pre-Idealization Phase. And I just want to say a last thing that happened was when I kissed her during a casual encounter in the university with some colleagues, and I kissed her. Hello, hello, saying hello to everybody. I kissed her, and I didn't want to wash my face until like it was an afternoon, so I had to study and then get back. I got back to my grandpa's house only at night, 7 o'clock at night, and I said, well, I'm not gonna wash my face until I take a shower, because I want to keep this person in my skin as much as I can, because I like that girl. And I knew I was not gonna have a relationship with her depending on me, okay? I was never going to give the first step, but I dreamed about her, and I liked her. And I said, I want this person in my skin as much as I want, because I like this girl. It was a very beautiful time. It was, okay, because after all that happened, it all loses its meaning. The relationship with a narcissist has no value, and it was a fraud, and it loses all its meaning. It becomes an empty hole. And then you say, how come I lost all this time for nothing? Because I don't even remember. I don't like to remember these things. Even the memory of it's meaningless now. meaningless. So next video I'm going to talk about the idealization phase. Which is the phase that actually is in the books and in the sites, with the narcissist. But I want to talk about these things first as a to show how it was in the beginning, very beginning. And it was 6 years from 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. Well, 6 years of email and casual encounters with this woman. A friendship. I consider her my best friend. Okay. In 2012, this girl was the most important friend I had in my life. 6 years of friendship. And then in the next video we will see how that ended up. Thanks for your time.